There are certain key plants that have more pests and diseases than others. Roses, for example, anything in the rose family. So things like crab apples, those are the ones that I always check because they have certain pests and diseases. They're fairly common. And then I'll just check some of the other plant materials as I go about and looking for anything. Some of the pests that are around right now, besides the spongy moth caterpillars, they're everywhere. We also have on the boxwood is the boxwood leaf miner. I'll be checking to see what stage they're in. Boxwood psyllid, I'll be checking that. Lily plants, I'll be checking for lily leaf bug. So these are things that should be active now, and I want to see if they're here. So one of the key plants that I look at is crab apple, and by key plant, what I mean is it's most likely to have a problem, and indeed crab apples do. And one of the things I'm looking for now primarily are diseases. I know that the spongy moth caterpillars are on them because they're everywhere, and I'm sure I'll find some of those on here. But mainly what I'm looking for now is signs of apple scab or cedar apple rust, because this plant is certainly going to have those at some stage, because those are key diseases, and this is a key plant and is most likely to get that problem. So far, no sign that I see of any of those diseases, but they will be here at some point this spring and early summer. Okay, there's not a lot of things around this time of year in terms of pests and diseases. It's still a little bit early, and it has been a delayed spring, but we'll keep looking anyway. I will expect to see a lot more problems later on in the year, but right now I can make a fairly quick tour of the garden without seeing too many issues. The reason why I come is I'm doing this as part of my part-time work with UMass Extension. And what we do is, there are six or seven of us across the state in different regions of the state that scout the landscape for pests and diseases. And we do this each week now through the growing season. The only prediction we have is it's going to be a bad year for the spongy moth caterpillars, because we're just seeing huge numbers of these. Of course, it was a big problem last year when, especially here in the Berkshires, more so than other regions of the state, and there was considerable defoliation of trees. Not so many here in the Botanic Garden. In fact, I don't recall seeing much defoliation here at all. But in West Stockbridge, in South County, along the New York state border, there was considerable defoliation. If you just looked at the mountaintops back last summer, you could see all of the deciduous trees were just naked across the mountaintops. So this is a copper beech, and this one over the years has had woolly beech aphid. And so I always come over here and check the underside of the leaves to see if there is this white woolly mass on the underside of the leaves along the veins. And that indicates the presence of the woolly beech aphid. And that will cause some defoliation. It has never been really serious. It seems to come and go without too much of a problem. But one of the things, it is a problem right now. Right here I see some of the spongy moth caterpillar. There's one right there, and that's why you have holes in these leaves, is because that little caterpillar right there, one of the formerly known as the gypsy moth, but the spongy moth caterpillar now, they're everywhere, and this can be a big problem this year. And again, I see some holes, and that tells me that, yeah, there are caterpillars on this one, feeding on this as well. Okay, I'm going to be checking the willows here by the pond, because these willows in the past have had a pest called the willow leaf beetle, which tend to chew on the leaves of these willows. It's a little bit early in the season for them, but you just never know with strange climate factors that might upset the timing, the normal timing for a lot of insects. And I don't see any, so these are safe for the moment. And these are the red buds, which are in bloom now. Still in bloom. Over in the Connecticut Valley, in the eastern part of the state, these have already gone by, as have the flowering dogwoods. So here in the Berkshires, we get to see things a little bit longer, for a little bit longer period than they do in the rest of the state. I always like spring, you know. It's, so many things come into bloom and you only see them in this time of year, and it's like an awakening. So I'm going to be watching this oak tree this year because the last couple of years there have been branches that have, on which the leaves have turned prematurely yellow in midsummer. And so I suspect there's some disease here which I haven't identified as yet. It's usually one of these lower branches. Everything else is dark green, and some of these branches have leaves that are very yellow, which indicates that there's some disease here. So one of the other things I make sure that I check every time I come are the roses here in the rose garden. And I mentioned earlier key plants. Well, roses are a key plant, and because they have so many pests and diseases. And that's why I'm always checking these roses here to see what they're going to have. And I do see holes in the leaves, which tells me that there are spongy moth caterpillars, because they're the caterpillars that are active now, and there they are. One of the things that happens with when you have defoliation, whether we're talking about defoliation of the crab apples or the oak trees or beech trees or roses, this is happening early in the season. So even though the plants may lose their leaves, they will put out a second set of leaves. So you might think, well, then everything's fine, it puts out a second set of leaves. Except that it takes a lot of energy for the plant to put out a second set of leaves in a single growing season. That weakens the plant, and it makes it more susceptible to other problems. Overall, I usually don't encounter many problems here at the Botanic Garden. The garden is well maintained, the plant material is well maintained, and as someone who's putting together this report that goes out to the people in the green industry, it is one of the sites that I like to come to and check to see what is going on. And if I find something, I think it's important to let the maintenance staff here know, and so that they can rapidly take care of the problem. But as I say, it's rare to find any really serious problems here. I guess this is not going to be a bad year then, as far as the boxwood leaf miner is concerned. Check again to see if there are any adults flying. No, not yet. So that's a good sign.